We're on.
Hello, everyone. How are you? This is Maryann from Revealing Light Tarot, and I'm sitting here. I'm in Australia, and I'm sitting here in Massachusetts with Dr. Victoria Skirbo. We're here to do our 3 questions. She doesn't know what I'm going to ask her. I don't know what she's going to ask me. We haven't prepared. It's going to be a ride. We haven't done this for a while. We usually try and get together reasonably regularly to do this. Dr. Vicky goes back with me many years. She's a good friend of mine, and I'm really happy to be here today with her. So over to you, Vicky. What do you need to say?
Well, I can't tell you how excited I was when you're like, hey, let's do 3 questions. And I was like, yes. So I had something to look forward to. And it's always a pleasure to be on with you, Maryann. I feel like we're kindred souls, somewhat on the same level, play or level that we work from, but from different sides of the world. So it's like over and above and down under. I like that.
Over and above and down under. I like that too. And everything in between.
That's right.
So I must say you're looking really well. And wherever that attic bit, I know we had some trouble with internet and you went up to your attic. It looks like a wonderful space. And that looks like a leopard skin something or other.
Isn't this, well, it's not real, of course. It's, fake. It's, yeah. I think it's clouded leopard to be specific. Right. But it was a gift from my sister who passed away 3 years ago. So I always keep it. This is actually a little section of my boudoir, even though I said I wouldn't say it. This is my bedroom. So I keep this close. And if it gets cold at night, of course, it hasn't been cold at night here for months. Yeah. So I put it on my chair instead.
Yeah, I can understand that, keeping that close. Most of my viewers know I lost my dearest sister maybe 18 months ago now. And interestingly enough, I've been going through a little bit of the grieving process. So a real shout out to everybody out there who's lost a loved one. It's unfortunately part of the life that we lead in this existence, human existence. But I know that they're always there. That throw rug is a symbol, but she's also there with you. And I know that my loved ones are very close too. So let's get started.
Let's.
Do you want to ask me?
Why don't you? I'm a little nervous, but why don't you ask me first, and then I'll ask you a question, just in case. Okay. The same question. I'm always afraid we're going to ask the same question, and we never do.
I've got 4 here, so I've got an extra one. And I know you would be able to think quick enough to give me probably something that's pretty curly, and I don't mind doing that. So my first question to you is, there's been a lot of information about a violent demonstration, or what could be a violent demonstration at your Congress on September the 18th. Of course, the fences are going back up. They're highly prepared. They're not going to be caught again. And of course, we had your former Republican President, George Bush, coming out and stating the obvious, that people that defile and create violence and want to tear down democratic institutions are no better than the suicide bombers that crash planes into the trade centers. So I really felt, I think he used the word same foul intentions or something like that. And I thought that really cut to the point. I do want to know though, you can frame this with September the 18th. Will there be another attack, domestic attack on the US Capitol? On that congressional building? Will there be another attack?
Okay. I have the Druid Craft Tarot, and I love using them because they're beautiful, but they're enormous and they're really hard to shuffle. So, okay, we start with the Princess of Swords here. So I always kind of see this card as having to keep your ears to the wind, keep your awareness. There's something, this can be something afoul, but it is a page, it's a page, a princess. So I don't think it's a well thought out plan, or it's not a mature plan. All right, let's see what's crossing it. We have the Six of Pentacles crossing it. I always see this as a fair distribution of resources, giving to the poor, giving to those who need it, as a crossing card. I think that they've probably spending a lot of money to make sure that this doesn't happen.
Yes.
You know, whereas January 6th, there weren't any police. There's going to be so many police. So I think the Capitol may not even be the place we should be concerned about, quite honestly.
Yeah, exactly.
So we have the Two of Swords here, which is being at a crossroads, maybe not taking an action. So it's as if we're at a what's that, a détente? Is that the word? Where we're just sort of poised. Okay, let's see what's in the past. We have the Queen of Swords in the past. It's interesting. The Queen of Swords. I'm going to hold that aside before I know what that means.
Well, that was
Go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say the previous plan. I mean, the Queen comes forward with a strategy and a plan.
That's true. Yeah. Yeah. Just that it's a feminine energy. So it holds me back from that a little bit. But in the sky, we get the Eight of Cups. So they may plan something, but I don't think it's going to happen, quite frankly. Not with the Eight of Cups there.
Yeah.
Not with the Eight of Cups there. All right, let me see here. And then we have the Five of Cups, which is sorrow in the immediate future. I'm going to keep pulling on that. How it's seen from the outside, the Two of Wands. Again, all these twos, it's like, twos like hold this, it's like they balance each other. This card also, and even this card, the Two of Swords, it's like choices. It's like the choice to go down one road or another, right? That was at the root. And then we have this, how it's seen from the outside. It's like the man is it's like a man is in the doorway, but he's standing there. He's not moving forward. But I'm a little concerned with the Five of Cups. So let's see what else comes up. We have a lot of anxiety in a domestic situation, the Nine of Swords, but this is mental anxiety. This isn't really, there's really nothing to be afraid of here except your own mind and what your mind creates. It's, I don't know if they're saying it just to make people anxious. You know what I'm saying? I don't really see how they can do it. Hopes and fears, the Ten of Swords. You know, of course, we hope that it's done with, September 6th. Or we may fear that, somebody can get hurt with that. Let's see the outcome. And we have the Strength reversed. So I would say that they had the surprise the last time. They had Trump at his Trumpian best. They had all these people on the inside the last time. They don't have any of those things now. Those people are not going to do anything. And there's nothing, I don't believe there's anything actually happening that day. Like it's not like they're picking a Supreme Court person or they're doing an election. It's just a day that they think they picked out of but the Five of I'm just not sure about that Five of Cups.
Sometimes that can point to somebody loss, can sometimes be associated with loss and regret. And we said the Capitol, but anyway, do you want to pull a clarifier card on that?
Let me do that. It very well could be that the people who are sad are the MAGA people.
Yeah.
right? I mean, we like to think that, you know,
Yeah.
but it could very well be them. And of course, a card flew. Excuse me a second. I have to try to stretch without giving myself a stitch. I tell you, old age sucks a little bit. Yeah.
Does, yep.
I turned 60 this year.
Wow.
Yes. So, and I probably shouldn't say this, but I will. I turned 60 and somebody actually said something rather risque to me, even though I didn't understand it because it was in Spanish. And when I was visiting my mother, and my cousin came to my rescue and nearly ripped the guy's head off. And I'm like, why is she talking to that guy? But he thought I was cute, which I thought was when I was 30, I would have gotten upset about it. But when you're 60, you're like, ooh, somebody thinks I'm cute.
Yes.
Right? Okay. So clarifying the 5 of Cups, I get the Sun, the 2 of Cups, and the Ace of Pentacles. I think it's them. I think it's the MAGA people that are upset. I think they're going to be upset that something didn't happen.
Yeah.
That's who I think is upset. I don't know if it's going to wake them up anymore, but I don't think it's us. I think we're good.
Yeah. They need somebody in power to reinforce their own power, and they don't have that.
Right.
Which is really good.
Right.
Yeah. Good. That was in line with my thought, my feelings, my intuition is it's just not going to go anywhere because they've done too much. The authorities have done too much, and there's just not the strength there. It's interesting you drew that strength card in reverse. So
I don't do reverse cards.
Maybe not the capital we need to worry about. But anyway, that's for another time.
All right. So my question, are you ready? 20 years in Afghanistan. What? I could ask another question.
No, go for it. Come on.
What are we to learn from that experience?
Okay.
As a country.
Yep. Look, I think, deep down, all of us are pretty heartsick over Afghanistan one way or another. I think that, what I would like to see is the world, there's terrible stories coming out around humanitarian crisis, and that the world and the US don't turn away from that, and Australia doesn't turn away from it. We've got COVID, we're all dealing with Delta, and we're a little less, we've got trouble enough of our own. And I just hope that we can avert a large-scale humanitarian crisis. So 20 years, let's go back to the beginning. And we know that 9/11, you've recently had that anniversary, and a very somber, sad day, 20 years on. There's been all sorts of commentary around what happened during those 20 years, and the withdrawal, of course, and those that passed during that withdrawal, including US troops and Afghan citizens. All the soldiers lost, all the veterans, all of that. 20 years, what did we learn? I hope we've learned something. So what did we learn after 20 years in Afghanistan? What did we learn? So I'm getting an image of the 7 of Cups. I'm getting an image of a castle surrounded in fog, which I think in one of my decks is an image for the 7 of Cups. So the kingdom that we were after, whatever that kingdom is shrouded in fog, and we can't see our way clearly behind that. Now, I'm just going to give you that image because that's what I've got. Let's pull some cards. Okay, so what did we learn after 20 years? So also getting people around the table, not, you know, that whole approach of getting everybody around the table, not just one leading for whatever reason. And sometimes there's no accountability, aka weapons of mass destruction. There were none. I know that's Iraq, but I'm just going to go with that.
Yep.
So there's accountability. There needs to be more than the US leading things. There needs to be, and I'm not saying that, there needs to be transparency and accountability and multiple players around the table, no matter who they are. So the first card out, signifier card, is the 8 of Swords. There's a restriction here. There's hands tied. There's a lot. There's flames in the background. This is a card of fear. So what sends us in fear, what is not well thought out, for whatever reason, whatever place the fear is coming from, it has to be acknowledged. That fear has to be acknowledged, because you can't have progress if you're operating under fear. That is a fear of one's own making. I mean, that is the 8 of Swords. We've got control if we just want to take that blindfold off. Now we've got the 5 of Cups crossing that. So we had blood spilt, we had loss. While ever that fear of our own making is there, we've had this terrible, terrible loss of life. And this is what happened also with the Trade Center, the people that died. So it seems that those 2 cards are our signifier ones, death and destruction from fear, but it's a fear of our own making. Now, here we get to the positive, and Biden, your president, was absolutely right to finally end things in Afghanistan. I want to make that clear. I hope we never have to have another Afghanistan or another Iraq. I hope that never happens again, where puppeteers come in and soldiers pay for the puppeteering with their lives. We've got the Ace of Cups. There's a lot of emotion here, one way or another. No matter who you speak to, there's a lot of emotion, but there's also ultimately the fear is driving that, a fear of our own making. Now, I know I'm getting complex around this, but there's layers and layers of fear. So in the past, we have the Wheel of Fortune, and this is the, you know, the ultimate why were you in Afghanistan and not Saudi Arabia? I know Osama bin Laden was in Afghanistan, but those suicide bombers also came from Saudi Arabia. There's some kind of Wheel of Fortune aspect here, an expansion. What did Bush want, as well as going after Osama bin Laden? What else did he want? So there is this expansive wanting to increase presence in the Middle East. We've got the 6 of Pentacles in the sky, giving and receiving help, loans and debts. Who's in whose pocket, I've got to say. There's money involved. So what did we learn? All of these lessons are one way or another being seen by us all. The 7 of Wands in the immediate future, having to defend yourself, standing your ground. You know, we do need to unpick Afghanistan. We do need to do that. And now's the time that we do need to do it, and not being defensive, because again, that comes from this sort of a place, you know, because we only restrict ourselves. We'll just have another Afghanistan unless we learn that sometimes this energy, he's not going anywhere. He's got his feet on the wands. He's pretty, you know, he's not moving forward. He's spending all his time defending himself. And I do feel that is where we are at this time with Afghanistan.
Defending your position.
Yep. We've got the Hierophant in the here and now, the government. The government, in a way, is defending themselves. Whether it's Trump saying he never released 5,000 Taliban, what a load of poppycock. Of course he did.
Of course he did.
Everyone's defending themselves. Everyone's trying with this Knight of Cups to present their side of things very positively. The hopes and the fears, there's something the Lovers card deals. This is this Gemini energy, and I know that that the North Node in Gemini is there as well, needing to see this with a really clear head, not skirting around and, you know, hiding things because of this defensive energy, but to look at things in the cold, hard light of day. We have the Four of Wands, which is the outcome. Let communities decide for themselves. Let communities solve their own problems. Let communities be communities. Don't go in after this kingdom type thing. You know, but you want the castle, you want, it's no different. You want this expansion of territory or whatever, of influence. Leave them be. Leave them be. Okay, so this is really, I think, what your president was saying. Get out of there and leave them to solve their own problems. If we do that, we've got a victory. And we've got new starts. So what ultimately was learned is that we shouldn't be interfering in other countries. We definitely shouldn't be sending troops in there and let them solve their own problems, because I think had they been left alone, they may have gone the way that they know best. Gone the way you might not have had the Taliban in power at that time. You may have had an Afghan government. But I think that's what we're learning. We didn't win at all because we shouldn't really have been there. Now, at the base of the pack, we've got the Nine of Wands. And this, of course, is boundaries, needing to put boundaries up, or being in this situation of your own making. And of course, successive presidents inherited what President Bush did, but also successive presidents didn't end it either.
Right.
And we've got the Three of Pentacles and the Ten of Wands, the money going out. And there was also contractors. Everybody made money on it. And here we've got our Seven of Cups. I hate to say, you know, I don't want to say that we were under an illusion of all these things, but until we unpack that, we'll repeat it again. I hope, and I said this to you before, I hope our troops in Australia and I hope US troops and other allied troops never do an Afghanistan again. The second question that arises from that, and this is what you're debating now in your country, can terrorism be effectively controlled through aerial type methods? The other image I got was everybody sitting around the table. And unless that's done, and unless unified decisions are made, and unless you have your not your enemies, but not necessarily your allies, you need more than your allies sitting at that table, which means you need the Russias, you need the Chinas, you need everyone at the table. Now, is that possible? I don't, probably not, but it is the strong approach. It is the strength approach. So that's what I got.
Oh, easy peasy. I told you I was going to ask you a hard one, so I apologize for that. Okay, you can hit me now.
All right. So I'm going to ask you, what does China want globally and why? Speaking of China, Now, I know that's a pretty vague question, but I would be interested to see what your cards say. What does China want globally and why? Because I think the why will come through the picture.
Okay, China. China, China, China. They built the original wall, right? Only they finished theirs. They didn't. It didn't blow over in a storm like it did here.
No. Fortress China.
Yeah. Such an ancient culture. Such an ancient culture. Okay. All right. China, China, China. All right. We have the King of Wands here. So this is a card of dominion, of course. This is a leadership. I think they want to be world leader. I think they want to be a world leader. Let's see what's crossing that. The Five of Cups. I think they want to be a world leader, but I think there's big problems there. I think there's really big problems with people. Now, of course, not the people who are well off, the middle class. They have a vibrant middle class and a lot of rich. For a communist country, I mean, how is it they even have a middle class? But they do. But there's a lot of poverty. There's a lot of people not being taken care of, and I think there's a lot of maybe like climate change stuff. And they built this big dam. Did you hear about there's a big dam that they built? And I think they're realizing that the dam is leaking.
Yeah.
And if the dam breaks or it goes, it's like, I think there's like, I don't know how many people are in the path of destruction if the dam fails. So with the Five of Cups, I feel like there's this like overrunning of sorrow and emotion. So I think that they want to rule the world, they want dominion. They want to be a leader, not necessarily rule the world. At the root, they have this is the Seven of Wands. So they're standing their ground. In this deck, this is the Arcanum deck. He's like standing his ground. He's on I guess we would call it a porch. And he has all these things coming at him, but there's a door behind him and it's ajar. So it's like they're standing their ground, but there's a way out. There's like a back door to it somehow that they can escape. So while I feel like there's a lot of like you will pay, and you know how Xi Jinping is saying all these very like aggressive things. I really don't think that's what they want to do. I think they'd be willing to go out the back door and figure something else out.
Right.
In the past, we have the Two of Swords. So it's this energy of being, again, kind of stuck. There's a stuckness to this card. It's interesting that this was in the other reading about America as well. We have the Five of Wands, but reversed. So I believe what this means to me is that there's a lot of infighting, but we're never going to hear about it.
Okay.
So while it looks like there's a unified front there, I think that there's a lot of issues that we don't get to hear about. And it's always been that way there. In the immediate future, we have the Five of Pentacles. I think that with climate change, I think they're going to have a big problem with hunger. I mean, how many people are in China? Is it 4 billion? Or it's like a crazy amount of people, right? So there's a lot of responsibility there. And I don't think they have the resources. I think that's one of the reasons why they're expanding, because China just doesn't have the resources to maintain its own society within the boundaries of the Chinese, we'll call it the Chinese Empire. How it's seen from the outside, we have the Eight of Swords. So there's this feeling of constraint. There's this feeling of, again, it's like this feeling of being stuff, but it's because of your point of view, or it's because of the way you think about things. Their domestic situation is the Lovers. So there is a need to come to an agreement, to make a choice, this is of course the Gemini card, so to discuss things, to talk about it. I don't think diplomacy is out of the realm of possibility. I think they're responding to the whole China virus thing that Trump started, and now Biden is being really kind of, because there was a point where we were friends with China, right? And they hold all our debt practically. So if they call in the debt, we're kind of screwed. So I think that there's like a whole bunch of stuff that's happening that we are not privy to. Like, I think that they put this outward front, but in behind things, they're doing something different. And it could be they're doing something different with other countries. It's like, I'll say face, you say face, and in the back room we'll make an agreement. That's what it feels like to me. Hopes and fears, the Four of Cups, discontent. Of course, I think that they're concerned that their people will be discontent, because there is inequality. It's a communist country that doesn't have, communism. It's like the state owns everything and everybody gets equal, which doesn't really happen. Didn't happen in Russia that way either, right? But that's the sort of the whole idea. But I think that there's a lot of discontent, but of course they're terrified to say anything. And then we have the Hierophant as the outcome. This is the Hierophant is like a traditional card, right? It's traditional governmental power, but it's also the card associated with connecting to like previous lifetimes, previous lives, ancestors. There's a strength to China. China's not going anywhere. There are times when China is at the top of its game and at the bottom of its game, but I feel like it will maintain itself. But I think a lot of what they're putting out there is not necessarily what it seems. So underneath it, we have the Knight of Cups, we have the Five of Swords, and we have the Queen of Pentacles. I think, there's the Queen, the Cups. But underneath it, they're not above skullduggery when it comes to resources and money.
Do you remember that reading that I did on their damn chart? My God, I don't get worried looking at countries' charts, but that one worried me. I thought they've got a real propensity toward espionage. Yes. And they are brutal with those that they consider their enemies. So I guess for Australia on that, Biden, I read the news this morning that Biden is calling the Quad, what they call the Quad countries, to visit the White House. Australia, Japan, what are the other ones? Australia, Japan, must be some Asian countries. Anyway, they're coming to the White House to talk about China in a way to try and counteract China's rise. But again, diplomacy with China might be the better way to go. But anyway,
I think that you have to do both, right? It's what is it? All the world is a stage kind of thing.
Yeah,
and they've been around a lot longer, so they understand, the art of war and all that stuff. They know how to do that. So, one of the reasons that one of the reasons I think America did so poorly in Afghanistan is because they just went in and expected everybody to be an American instead of taking into consideration that they were in Afghanistan.
Yeah, well, I think the commentators are saying that, this could be some kind of NATO of the 21st century. But, yeah, I mean, we should have everybody there, not, I don't know. Again, everybody sitting around the table is the way to solve these things. So hopefully You know, hopefully we learn those lessons. Okay, so you've got one for me.
Yes, this one's a little easier. And you can frame it in any way that you want. What can we do about Joe Manchin? What can we do about that guy? I mean, ugh.
I think Biden is already doing as much as he can. He's working one-on-one with him. He's the White House is trying to get traction with him behind the scenes rather than come out in any sort of, because he is what holds the Senate. If he becomes an independent, or worse still becomes a Republican, for better or worse, you know, then of course you lose your majority. So they have to be very careful about that. Even though what he's doing is absolutely wrong, they have to handle him in a certain way. Because they don't want him leaving the Democratic Party. Now, yes, then the Democrats would run someone of their own next time he comes up for election. But until then, you would lose that 1-seat majority. So it's very, very tricky. It's very tricky. But let's see. And we know all about what he does and who funds him, and those stories are pretty well known. But let's see what can be done to bring Joe Manchin really around the infrastructure bill. So what can be done about him? Is he open to reform of the filibuster? Let's see. What can be done with Joe Manchin? Let's see. Is Joe Manchin, can he be massaged? What can be done? What can Biden do about the problem with Joe Manchin? Okay, so Queen of Pentacles, again, his wife, his family. I think his wife has been given some sort of position, but this is stability. National security as well. So, yeah, stability. That's domestic stability. So he can be gotten to, if, you know, along certain lines. And yeah, so challenged by loss, money. Again, you know, I don't know how your politics works, but sometimes giving the person's electorate some funding can be helpful to bringing them into your tent. It's like the art of the deal. We had a female prime minister, first female prime minister here, Julia Gillard, and she had formed a government with the crossbenchers. And one of the things she did was look after their electorates. So they were pretty open. Okay, my electorate normally gets neglected, but if you help my constituents, and you know, because people want to help their own constituents, they want to do things for their own constituents, even though he might be perceived as not wanting that. I think he does want to help, because then he gets re-elected. So I think two things. I think if the administration, and they might already be doing this, talk to him about stabilizing the country. He's aware of what needs to be done for that to happen. And he has said he would support, because voting rights come into the frame here, that he would support a version of the John Lewis voting rights legislation. But I think he's aware that ultimately he wants to keep America stable. I know that's out of left field, and he does want to help his constituents. So if they come at it from that way, that would be good. But the foundation of the reading is the Seven of Swords, and he is in bed with various corporate donors, and he's maybe this reading's for entertainment purposes only, but he's not being forthcoming about a lot of, perhaps some things. But this is also, he's talking to Republican senators. He's talking to the Republican Party pretty often. And so you don't want that. You know, why is he undermining Biden's agenda? Why is the question.
Why indeed?
Something is not, all is not truthful and forthright here with him, or, you know, in this particular scenario. In the past, we had the Lovers card, which was Trump. Now, again, I'm pretty sure Trump flirted with Manchin in the past. I'm pretty sure he did when he was president. You know, there could have been things that we're not privy to, but this is also doing deals with people we can't see, who he's in bed with, who he's embracing. Not a good card for him to get as the foundation of the reading. So in the sky, we've got the Victory card. There's still levers that Biden can pull around campaign support for him, even endorsement. So ultimately, would he be elected as a Republican next time around? I don't think so. Not, he's West Virginia, isn't he? Would he be elected as an independent? No, I don't think so. With a strong Democratic candidate. So, he wants a win. Joe Biden, Manchin wants a win on his agenda, and Biden has to work with him because of that slim majority. We've got the Eight of Pentacles, which is exactly that. He does need to have people negotiate with Manchin, people that are skilled, people that are not going to, you know, come in there aggressively and say, why aren't you supporting? We need a progressive agenda. It's all about who's supporting Manchin, working with that. And even though that is distasteful, there has to be a certain element of giving to his agenda as well. It's terrible. It's terrible, I know. The foundation of the reading is community. This is my card for the Democratic Party at its best. One that serves its communities. Right. And that is the strength here. So I don't think that is the strength here. So I think, you know, Biden needs to take Manchin back to his roots. Acknowledging that there's that, acknowledging the corporate stuff, acknowledging that he doesn't want to, he wants to keep his power, acknowledging all of that, but being fair dinkum enough to take him back to his roots, remind him of his roots, because that is, I think, what Biden is doing right now. Hopes and fears, we've got the Queen of Wands. I think Manchin is scared. If he left the party, if there was to be a new candidate, I don't know what the female vote is like in West Virginia, but everywhere across the world, male politicians that have their foot in the 1950s need to watch out. That's just a fact. Sorry, but it is. Now, the Death card, endings. There could also be, within this very complicated reading, no, they're not going to threaten Joe Manchin with death. No, they're not going to do that. But I think it will get to the point where Biden will maybe get really tough with him, because this is what Biden does. 60% of people want mandates on vaccines, you know, whether you agree or disagree with that. He took the hard decision. He withdrew from Afghanistan. He takes those hard decisions. He will only go along with Manchin so much before he pulls him into line and says, if you take my agenda down, I will finish you. I will finish your career. You will no longer be a Democrat. But it's a hard lift, and for all of the reasons that I've gone through. But yeah, we got the Knight of Wands clarifying all of this as well. I think if they can take him back, you know, not attack him, but work with him, right, and take him back to his roots a bit. You know,
everybody wants to be a hero, right?
Exactly. I think they'll get more cooperation if they massage him rather than they attack him. And I know that's difficult because of that seven of swords, but it's the only way they can act at this time until the majority in the Senate is increased, which incidentally I think will be.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Me now for your last question now. Which shall it be? Which shall it be?
You can give me a hard one. I'll be okay.
I'm going to go sort of leading from that last reading. Will voting rights legislation be passed through the Senate in whatever form? Will any form of voting rights legislation be passed through the Senate? Whether it's through filibuster reform, bringing Manchin to the table and that silly Kirsten cinema, will it be passed in any form through the Senate? Because that's what needs to happen.
Right. All right. These cards are so slippery that I might lose them in the shuffle here. We have the Seven of Wands. So this this always says to me that there's higher ground here. This is the higher moral ground, right? So that's the Voting Rights Act. I mean, we're a democracy. If we can't do one man, one person, one vote, then democracy can't survive. It's like the basic thing, the choice, right?
Yep.
We have crossing that is the Ten of Wands. This is a lot of burdens, a lot of just a lot of baggage with this. There's a lot of baggage to get through. I think this is all the procedural stuff that they go through. It's almost like it's, first of all, democracy is not a quick process anyway, because you have to get people to agree, and that's not easy, and nobody's agreeing. And then you have to go through, there's all these rules and there's all these you know, what's his name? McConnell is a master of utilizing the rules to just stop everything in its tracks, right? So the challenge is just the whole procedure. Procedures are just too long, too, what do you call it? Underneath it, we have the moon. So I feel like there are things under the surface, and quite frankly, I think it's prejudice, really. It's the fact that, you know, in 2050 there'll be more brown people in America than white people in America, and brown people tend to go with the Democrats. So this is not really amenable to the two-party system that we have now, right? In the past, we have the Eight of Swords. I think this is all of the voting stuff, all the shenanigans from the past, you know, poll taxes and this, that, and the other thing that they did, tying people's hands, not allowing them to move freely, not allowing them to vote. So that's the past. In the sky, we have the Five of Pentacles, which is destitution.
Goodness gracious.
Yeah, this is not good so far. Let's see what's the immediate future. We have the Knight of Swords coming up. This could be actually, in this deck, this guy, he has an, I always think it's a machine gun, but it's not. It's like an arrow thing, one of those things that does the arrows, and he's running for his motorbike. So he's like running away from something. So I feel like, yeah, that doesn't look very good to me. How it seemed from the outside, we have the High Priestess. There are hidden things. There's a lot of things hidden here that are not, that we're not privy to in some way. And the domestic situation, we have the Queen of Cups. This is probably the best card so far from this whole draw. A sense of community, a sense of fairness, a sense of nurturance, security, emotional security. Oh, okay. I just thought of my third question. Hopes and fears, the Five of Cups. Not good, not good. Let's see the outcome. Maybe we'll get a good card. We have the Queen of Swords here.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
that's good. So I think it doesn't look good, but I feel like, well, let's keep going, see if we can get a major arcana. The Seven of Pentacles. This is things aren't quite ready to be harvested. And the Magician.
You know what I get? Reform of the filibuster from that.
Okay.
It's a plan, it's a strategy. What do you get?
I feel like they're going to pull it out at the end, but it's not going to look good through the whole process. Like the whole, it's just going to look like, and I feel like there's a woman that comes to
Kamala Harris.
Kamala Harris, probably.
Vote.
Right. That one. That's yes. Yeah.
You think is that
Yes, I think so. I think it's because she's the deciding vote, right?
What's underneath that?
Oh, good question. The Nine of Cups.
Miracles.
The King of Swords.
Strategy and planning.
And the Knight of Wands. So that this one especially is celebratory. So I do think, but it's not gonna look good. It's gonna.
What a great reading. Well, I guess if you're reforming the filibuster for that and you're pushing it through with one vote, I guess it's not going to look good.
No, I know it's going to be such a slog, and I think that one of the things that we have to do is that we have to keep picturing the positive outcome. Yeah. I think, and then, taking whatever steps you need to take to get to that positive outcome. It's not just pie in the sky, hoping and praying, but it's constantly focusing, because nothing that we've ever gotten has been easily won. It's always been a struggle.
Absolutely.
It's always been a struggle. And I think it's interesting that the Queen of Wands came up as one of the outcome cards, because I feel like it's the feminine that finally says, come on, let's get our shit together. Sorry, I shouldn't have said that, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That's the only swear. So I want to know one of the things that came to me most recently was that here in America, and I don't know if this is true in Australia as much, but we don't seem to value our children. We have these people who don't want their children who can't get vaccinated to not wear masks. Yeah. What the heck? And notice how I said heck and not what I really wanted to say. Yeah. What is I can't make sense of it. So what is that? What is that? And maybe a little bit, why are these parents, like, what's wrong with these parents? What?
They actually believe, I'm seeing a radio and somebody knitting. It's like they actually believe the vaccine is dangerous. So they're believing what they're hearing, and they believe it so much that if they were to vaccinate their kids, they would feel they're killing their kids. Like they could kill their.
That I understand, but why won't they make them wear masks?
Okay, why won't they make them?
Why are they putting their children at risk? I can understand the vaccine thing. I wouldn't feel too comfortable myself.
There's that card about I think when I read on the virus, I keep getting the curse card, the hand over the mouth. When you said that, I saw someone putting a black mask on their face. It's like they feel their fear is such. We're talking about like superstition here. We're talking when we come to masks. It's like, if I put the mask on, somehow I'm going to fall into maybe getting the virus. I'm cursed in a way. It's like, it's hard to articulate, but it's superstition is why they won't wear a mask. Superstition. So what is that? superstition. You know, is my freedom going to be taken away? First of all, I think that COVID is a hoax. Second of all, I think that the vaccines are going to kill me ultimately. And thirdly, if I wear a mask, I'm going to be cursed. It's like a very primitive, fearful, superstition type environment, one that we can't understand because the science tells us what it tells us, and because the proof and the evidence tell us what it tells us. But it's the same thing that drives them to be just about to be hooked up to a ventilator and suddenly see the light. Oh my God, I nearly saw them. Oh my God, I should have had the vaccination. It's like, it's really, the whole MAGA thing is based on superstition and fear. It's not based on logic and common sense. And so that's why they don't wear the mask. But anyway, let's see what the cards, I'll do a cut down Celtic cross. Why do the, and it can be amongst it, you know, like Republicans that are educated, that maybe doctors, even nurses, why aren't they? Because, you know, fear of losing their freedoms. I mean, what is going on here? Why don't they, with their children, why are they exposing their children without masking up? Well, there's their children, the Page of Pentacles, Earth, again, you know, strengthening their immune systems, you know, letting them catch the COVID and letting them be strong. And we don't need those masks. They see the masks as a curse. They see it as a, you know, like, as a brand being branded. And there's a fear around all of that. It's terrible. That is terrible. Why are they not allowing their kids why aren't they protecting their kids? They feel they are protecting their kids. So we've got the Magician card here, manifestation. So if I put on a mask, I am going to somehow manifest that COVID to me. I didn't realize that it runs this kind of, but when you get fear, you get a kind of paranoia, and superstition is based on paranoia. Crossing that is strength. So here are our two signifier cards, the Magician, magic, manipulation, and crossing this is strength. It's undermining their strength, but they don't necessarily understand that. The Ace of Pentacles, they're putting their faith in the, I guess in the material world. It's like they see the Ace of Pentacles will be protected because we've always been protected. There's an element of past here. When you get this superstition and fear, it's because people haven't been brought into the 21st century. Now, I don't mean that as a downer on anyone. I don't. But they're wherever they're living and whatever, it's not, there's a difference. It's a different society to the ones that we know. They're putting their faith in what has always protected them. They're not understanding that this is actually even real. Now we've got the Chariot card here in the past. So this is, it's hit really quick and everything's out of control. And the Chariot can crash at any time. That's in the past. So again, COVID will always go to I did a reading in Nature, will always go to the fact, you know, the Titanic sank and it was supposed to be unsinkable. Science was supposed to control COVID, but it hasn't, because certain people aren't believing in the science. So science can't solve everything. The Wheel of Fortune is in the sky. This is Jupiter in Aquarius, though. So one of the things that's going to happen as they're being hooked up to the ventilator, as their kids are being, those percentage of kids that are going to get really sick, that aren't wearing masks, you know, it drives home a really quick lesson on logic, on dispelling the fears and the superstitions, and suddenly you've got to rely on medicine. Suddenly you've got to rely on the medicine that you shunned and avoided. And Jupiter in Aquarius, but Jupiter in Pisces as well, also teaches us lessons, and they're not always good lessons. We want to envisage the kind of society that works for us, that doesn't destroy itself. Then we've got to get with the logic, we've got to get with the knowledge, we've got to go with the evidence. Now, the Eight of Wands, things coming at them too quickly. The speed of the virus didn't allow enough time to bring people along. And then you had Trump there, who was deliberately stoking this kind of energy. It's still coming at you quick. It's coming at us quick. It will continue to do that. We're not done with it yet. The Queen of Cups here, the mothers. I think ultimately some of the MAGA crowd, if I can just call them that, who are holding themselves back, will put their children in front.
In a good way, right?
And it's going to happen pretty quick. If it hasn't already come quick, it's happening pretty quick. DeSantis is on a losing cannonball run. He's on a losing train. Because now they're seeing, now they're catching up. Now they're wanting to protect the kids. The Four of Pentacles, holding on, standing their ground. You know, they might fight with their husbands ultimately about their kids wearing their masks, but they're going to win. The women are going to win because motherhood is really strong. You'll put yourself in danger to save your kid. In the hopes and fears, we've got the Two of Wands. Be patient, but this is also the crossroads. How many twos have appeared in this session?
I know, right?
But it is a plan that comes to fruition with time. Whose plan is that? I think that's the earth. I think that's the universe's plan there. And I think that what's unfolding is what is obviously had to unfold. The outcome card is the Queen of Swords. Of course, it's the Queen of Swords, logic. Logic, stability, a plan, a strategy. While things are out of kilter right now, ultimately through hardship, through painful lessons, through all of that, is how we're going to arrive at that kind of energy. Because you can only contract when you're in that fear and superstition, caveman kind of energy. You can only contract. If you want to expand, you've got to do something else. And there is going to be loss, unfortunately, the Five of Pentacles. And the Seven of Pentacles indicates there's going to be wide-scale review, ultimately, at the end of the day. Now, at the base of the pack, we've got the Nine of Wands. That's why I never am too hard on those that are yet to learn, because that's where they are. They're like that. And we've got the High Priestess here. A lot is still hidden from our view in terms of what the universal kind of law, if you like, is still hidden. We're not quite there yet. And we've got people coming together because ultimately we've got widespread loss. This is, I always associate the Five of Cups with passing over, in terms of there's a bridge there that leads to, and there's going to be a lot of regret because of the deaths. So I don't know. That's what I got, Vicky. I'm a bit tired now.
I know, this was very heavy, wasn't it? It was, I feel like we were moving through molasses at certain points in this, but I think we're at a very heavy time right now. And I think we need each other to actually navigate this. And, you know, one of the other things that I always have to keep in mind with these folks is that a lot of them are listening to different news. Like Fox News is the you know, their choice, and their list, and if you watch it, it's like a different world. And I know we're supposed to have a free press, right? But there has to be something that they do when they just lie to people, right? I think somebody, I don't know who was saying it, that people who lose people from COVID should just sue Fox News for false information.
And that,
Like somebody said that. I don't know if it was a reader or if I heard it in a
yeah.
program.
Well, like the big lie and the voting Dominion, and Smartmatic, these people are being sued, and they're being given a real big, swift, heavy kick up the backside, and they're going to pay. I know Mike Lindell, the pillow guy, has sold his plane. They're ultimately going to pay in the end, and this is what we're seeing. We're seeing a return to a little bit of sanity, but they've got to see it. They've got to see it. Anyway, oh my God, have I done your 3 questions?
Yes, I think yes, we've done 6 questions. That was whoo,
disheveled now.
So thank you again for doing this with me. I always enjoy this. I mean,
thank you, Vicky. Thank you, and we'll come back and maybe look at those thorny issues. If we're here and we need to get there, what's going to happen in between,
right?
And some of those issues around, the future of organisations like Fox, the civil suits against these people, where are they going to be in 5 years? All of those things are good to look at to reinforce that it's not necessarily going their way. It's not going the way that Ron DeSantis wants to go, and yet he keeps coming and hitting back like a little toddler. But ultimately, he's on the wrong track.
And I think that I think that because kids are much more savvy and much more connected with information, and they have those internal BS detectors, that when you get to a certain age and a certain position in life, you think that that's the only thing you see. I think the future really are the children, and I think there are probably plenty of kids that say, Mom, I want to wear a mask, right? But we don't hear about them. And then we always have to remember that what we're seeing and what's getting reported is not necessarily what's happening.
Absolutely.
So it really requires us to do some homework on our own. It really requires us to keep that sort of positive mindset and sort of rise above all this he said, she said, I'm right, you're wrong stuff. That doesn't get us anywhere. It's about ascending beyond that and right, and raising the vibration. So as each one of us raises our vibration by not interacting with that kind of heavy energy, even though we were in a lot of heavy energy today.
Our job is to shine a light on it.
Right. So if we can do that and start to really, I think, focus on, we're co-creative. We can make a difference. Of course, we have to apply that to our own lives first. So we have to fix the stuff in our environment, and then but then we also have to keep that positive mindset to convince us that that's where we're going. So
well, even though the session was heavy, I did get a look at the road that we're on, and I see us inching forward, albeit slowly and painfully. So,
I have great hope, actually.
I'll take that.
Yeah, I have great hope. I think we're gonna do just fine, actually. And everybody's playing their part in this. So those people who see the light when they want to when they're getting on the ventilator, and they're like, I want they're part of this story as well. And as the veil lifts between the living and the dead, which is kind of what's happening, as these people are moving, we just had a giant coronal ejection, which sounds terrible, but like the sun just did this huge coronal ejection in the direction of the earth. And one of my teachers says when that happens, new souls are coming in, because the souls actually come from the sun. and they come into our atmosphere, and our atmosphere gets, so there's all these new souls coming in as a lot of the other souls are leaving. So you just kind of have to go with the flow of this. And to a certain extent, what's the word I'm looking for? Transcend the judgment of it, because we're not going to always understand. Like a lot of the readings were like, there's a hidden thing, there's a hidden thing. What are we not seeing? There are things we don't know. We don't know the grander purpose of this whole thing. We're just, we're like the blind people with the elephant. You're holding the tail, I'm holding the trunk, somebody else is touching the side of the elephant. If we can put it all together, we might get a better idea of what the elephant in the room is.
Exactly. All righty. Well, thank you again. And I'll catch up with you again soon. Thank you for this.
All right, guys. Thanks for joining us. Much love to everyone. Namaste.